All right, everybody, welcome to Crushing Land, the podcast dedicated to unlocking the secrets of successful land investing. I'm your host, Jonathan Havlis from The Land Method. And each time we do this, we tackle a different relevant topic, bringing you insights, strategies, expert advice to help you thrive in today's land investing world. Now, one thing I want to put out there is, unlike some shows where hosts claim to implement every new idea immediately so that they can get that dramatic effect and have you jump into things and all that, Crushing Land is more about that than just taking action for action's sake. We have special guests that join us for these longer live sessions, providing unique perspectives, expert knowledge for you. But our goal isn't for you to emulate everything that you hear, but rather to share successful stories, innovative strategies, golden nuggets that ourselves and others have found effective. It's your job to take this and sift through these insights and decide if this resonates with you and if it makes sense for your unique land investing journey. If you're catching this on replay and you want to join us live next time we have a guest, keep an eye on our Facebook group and in your inbox. We send out notifications weeks in advance, so you have plenty of time to tune in and participate in real time. So that being said, today we're joined by Aaron Porter and Chris Thomas. In the past 2 years, they have become a powerhouse in land investing. So what is the episode focus for today then? Well, today's conversation, and one that I'm genuinely excited about because it tackles one of the biggest bottlenecks that I have seen land investors struggle with over and over and over again: market selection and data quality. So on this episode, again, I'm joined by Aaron and Chris. Hop on, guys, if you want. The founders of AI Land Dealz. These guys come from very different backgrounds, spending years in high-level medical device sales before transitioning into land investing. Now they've gone on to build a 7-figure land business and eventually doing that and then using the software that we're going to be discussing today. Now, before we go any further, I want to be completely transparent and candid with you. The software we're talking about today is a paid platform. It's not a free tool. That said, and this is important, in all honesty, when used correctly, this type of software can save you thousands of dollars in wasted marketing, help you identify far better areas to target, and ultimately get you the better results with the same or even less effort. So during this conversation today, I'll be sharing my personal experience and results using this software inside my own land business, and Aaron and Chris will also be walking you through how they've used it in theirs. This isn't theory. This is real-world application in the current market right now, January 2026. And we'll also talk about how this software complements what we teach inside the land method. Our program helps you to understand how to identify investable areas and think strategically about markets. Their platform helps you to validate those decisions with data and then act by pulling the right areas and even downloading the leads directly. So if you've ever wondered about your strategy, maybe you're confident in your strategy, but you're unsure whether you're truly marketing in the best places, or if you're tired of wasting money testing counties that didn't quite perform, this episode is going to be extremely valuable to you. So if you're here live, this is interactive, meaning at the end of our discussion, we'll open it up, the room for questions. You can either put on your camera and ask them directly at that point, or you can put it in the chat and we'll answer it that way. So don't be shy. The more you give, the more that you're involved, the more you're going to get out of this. So that being said, let's get into it. Again, let's welcome Aaron and Chris here with us. Thank you guys for joining us today.
Thanks for having us, Jonathan. We're excited to be here.
Great. Sure. Thanks, so Jonathan. I did talk a little bit about your background. We're not going to spend a ton of time on that, but just to get a little bit on your background and your credibility before we get into some of this other stuff. We put it in the information that we put out there and stuff, but for those who may not know yet, can you share a little bit of your backgrounds and what life looked for when you were both working at Johnson & Johnson before you got into land investing?
Yeah, so Chris and I, we've known each other for 20 years. We went back and we worked for Johnson & Johnson for 15 plus years each. And we were in the medical device industry where we were on call selling plates and screws to orthopedic surgeons going into the operating room at hospitals at all times of the day. You know, you get called, paged at 2 a.m., you got to go into surgery because there's a rep in the room. So it was good money, but it came with a cost, right? Your lifestyle. But when the money's good and you're good at it, you just go with the flow. But I mean, a lot of reps got ultimatums from their spouses. Like, hey, like you can't even commit to your kid's birthday party. Like, this isn't going to work. So, I mean, 15 years later, Chris and I, we sat down and we're like, man, we got to figure something else out. And then we stumbled upon land.
Cool. So what, I mean, you talked on it a little bit there, but what was basically the point? Because everybody has that pain point. So what was that point that finally pushed you to say, we need something different? This is it. Was it the kids as you started having kids, or you mentioned that a little bit, or was it what did it, or was it just a bunch of stuff?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I'm married, have a now 12-year-old son. Aaron's married now. I mean, it got to a point where like I just was missing so many things with my family. For me, my son wanted me to coach sports. My wife wanted me home on weekends. Everywhere we went, we had to take two cars, right? In case I got called into work in the middle of the OR on a Saturday during church, during a basketball game for my son. My son was like, you're never home, Dad. I want you to start coaching my teams. And my family just wanted me home. And I finally stopped sacrificing them for the sake of a great, W-2 career with Johnson& Johnson. And we finally said, hey, we got to figure something else out where we can make, good money working for ourselves, stop working for the man. And so that was kind of the breaking point, is just getting our life back.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. And like I said, I mean, a lot of people here that resonates with them. I mean, it's a lot of why people get into investing or other things, because it's just like, money isn't everything. Sometimes people always talk about, oh, it's great, but you could be making $1 million a year, but if you're working 80 hours a week to do it, who wants to? So with that being said, then why land specifically? What made land stand out as compared to other real estate strategies, or I guess anything else maybe that, I don't need to be real estate, anything that you were looking at as a potential replacement?
I think the biggest is that you can do land virtually, right? I mean, I'm in my home office and this is where I do 99% of my business, right? As long as you have a cell phone and an internet connection, you can do this job. So how many jobs do you have the capacity to make six figures just on your own schedule? And so for me, that was the biggest. And I think there's no emotional attachment with land either, right? As opposed to houses. People have memories in houses, and land, you don't need to view it. You view it on Google Maps. I'm not worried about the termites, the tenants, all that. I just think land, without a doubt, is the best form of real estate to get into.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I agree. That's what we say. But it's interesting when you hear what people's reasoning is for starting down that road, right? So you haven't been doing this all that long compared to others. You launched your land business about 4 years ago now, right? Early 2022. And you crossed $1 million in net profit fairly quickly. So what do you believe was the biggest contributors to that speed of your success?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think for us, Aaron and I, like we said, we came from Johnson& Johnson, a Fortune top 50 company, right? And so we were salespeople, right? And we had that background. And when we got into this, we didn't treat it like a side gig. Like if we're gonna do something, we're gonna do it right. We're gonna go all in. And so for us, we treated it like a business, and that we were the owners of that business. And with that, we had sales background. We knew how to talk to people. In sales, it's a lot about building relationship and rapport with people. It's the same thing with sellers. If you're a real person, you can connect with people and build relationships with them, whether it's a seller, a buyer, even realtors, title companies. You'll do well in this industry. And for us, like that was big for us. We talked to every single seller. We talk to our buyers. We're consistent and we follow up with them, and we build that rapport, build that relationship, and for us that goes a long way.
Yeah. And I know you guys, we'll get into your numbers a little bit as to like what you're actually closing and what you're doing. And I'll be honest, I mean, when we talk about when we get there, I mean, when you guys gave me the numbers, I was like, that's nonsense. There's no way they're doing like what they're saying as far as like how many, like every contract. And then we had the same numbers using your stuff. So I was like, wow, it was like, this is legit. So let's get into that a little bit. We'll talk about the platform and what you're doing a little bit here, but let's talk about market selection and the problem that exists first. because you guys identified a problem. So one of the biggest struggles land investors talk about is market selection. You obviously saw that. So why do you think so many people get that wrong? Maybe they just go out of the gate and they get it wrong. So why is that the case?
I don't think there's good strategies and systems in place, right? And that's what our software does. When we first started, I mean, we were terrified. We're like, we don't even know what state to start in, let alone the counties, right? So, I mean, and then we're not playing with monopoly money here, right? We're playing with real dollars in marketing, where you're spending thousands of dollars each month potentially on mailers. Well, I want to make them count, and it just felt like we were given some guidance, right? Path of growth, that kind of thing, but it still felt like we were throwing spaghetti against the wall and hoping it sticks. Like, are we going to get calls this week? Are they going to be good ones? And it was just trial and error. So, I mean, that's kind of what led us to building the software.
So before you got there, before that point, before building it, how were you selecting your counties or zip codes or whatever it was you were doing? And you mentioned throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping it calls. So that's some of it. But what were some of the frustrations that were coming up to you over and over again as you were, the way you did it, and then what was happening afterwards?
Yeah. I mean, it took us a lot of time to calculate, where we're going to mail. So, I mean, we had Excel spreadsheets out the wazoo. Thankfully, Chris is an Excel spreadsheet wizard, so he got us dialed in. But we looked at path of growth, right? An hour outside the big cities, bodies of water, population growth, right? Like emerging cities. And with the software, I don't think that's a necessity, is looking. I want to look at, we'll get into it, but these green zip codes, if you live in these green zip codes, you are going to be successful. And I'm excited to go deeper into that.
Yeah. And just one clarification, everybody, when he says live in them, he means live in them business wise, as in like work there, not actually live there. It doesn't matter where you actually physically live. So just to be clear with that. So obviously, I know because you guys are on the phone, you talked about that. You mail a lot. Your bottleneck wasn't mailing or negotiations. You were good at that. You learned that very quickly. But again, it came down to where, right? The location that you were marketing to. So, and that's the one that's huge for everybody. Everybody's like, there's a lot of, it looks good here, but does it translate here? All right. And we've all dealt with that. I mean, I still, I've been doing this a long time, and generally speaking, it's like our criteria vary, but what you guys have built has helped us even more immensely. And again, we'll get into that again. So let's talk about that a little bit. The data edge using AI Land Dealz. First, I guess, before we talk about what's in it, what was, I guess, like your aha moment, like the thing that clicked with you, or you realized, or whatever it was, where you sat there and you said, this needs to be systematized into a tool instead of like the manual way you were doing this?
It was just a huge time suck, right? So we're sitting down on our computers doing the spreadsheets, and I'd say about our third go around, because the data, I mean, it gets stale, right? So you compile this, and then in 6 months from now, like, is that data even relevant anymore? Well, no, you got to do it again. And we just found ourselves just spending so much time on spreadsheets. Like, there has to be another way. So, I mean, we ranked our biggest deals after, about a year and a half, and we just kept seeing over and over that they were in areas where when the assessed was here, but the market value is up here, is where we were getting the deals. So that's what led us to the software.
Yeah, to piggyback on that as well, kind of our aha moment, we talked about that. We talked to every single seller. We've done that since the very beginning. And in early conversations when we were starting the business in 2022, we would ask the question to sellers, hey, what are you looking for on on this property? And we kept hearing like a common theme. A lot of people, some want market value, right? There's that seller that knows the market value, wants market value. And then there's the seller that doesn't necessarily know. They inherited the property. They're going through a tough situation. Life happens, right? They don't want to pay taxes anymore, HOA fees. And we started asking that seller, like, what are you looking for the property? And we kept hearing a common theme, and that was, well, the county assessed value is $20,000, right? And so after hearing that over and over again, it kind of was like a light bulb for us. Like, okay, well, if we can target areas where, like Aaron said, the assessed value is 20,000, but the market value is 30,000, 35,000, 40,000 on these properties, we can go in and we can anchor those conversations with sellers using the assessed value. Because at the end of the day, the county assessed value is really the only objective, tangible thing that you have in common when it comes to price with the property and the seller, right? Like we can all comp properties and get a different comp for them. The seller may think, the property is worth X amount, but the real only objective, tangible item that the property is worth is the assessed value because it's on their tax statement once a year. It's a hard number that they get from the county, and that's what their taxes and whatnot are based off of. So if we can use that assessed value as an anchor in our conversations with sellers for price point, knowing the market value is higher, that was our aha moment. And we started targeting areas that had those discrepancies early on.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback on that myself a little bit because having done this for so long, that is when you ask for a price, assessed value. If they say you tell me, that's probably the most common number is you tell me, but they have the assessed value in mind. But the next one is assessed value. Well, the county, whatever the county says it's worth. So with that being said, and I should say one thing really quick on that is we're not talking about this from our perspective of like we're not saying that's market value. In fact, you're saying it's not market value. Some people we're not saying to you because there is a discrepancy there. It's like some people will go and they'll make their offers. Oh, the county says it's worth 30 grand. It's worth no, it's not necessarily worth that, right? We're talking about just in their mind, the county saying it's worth 30 grand, but it's actually worth more. So with that being said, can you explain those core data points in your software and how it works between, because you just talked about, well, it's I forgot what the number was. You said, I think 20 grand and it's worth 35, right? So how does your software analyze that difference to help just break it down a little bit for those listening?
No, it's a great question. So that was kind of our strategy early on, how we built our business. So about a year and a half ago, Aaron and I said, okay, how can we take this concept and just run it throughout the country, right? We only work in a handful of states, 2 to 3, and we know that, this system will work throughout the country. And so what we did was we started developing of AI Land Dealz. And the way the data works is we take all 26 million, give or take, parcels of land in the US. It's around 26 million. We put that into our software. Each one of those parcels has a county assessed value attached to them, right? Directly from the county. So we take that number, and then on the second side, we look at market values for those 26 million. Now, granted, we don't have market values for all 26 million, but for the vast majority we do. And we do that by leveraging Redfin data, Zillow data, MLS data, coupled with some AI. And we essentially are assigning a market value to 20 million-ish properties of those 26 million. And so now we have 2 columns for each property, one with the assess, one with the market value. And we're looking at those deltas across the country by zip code and by county. So if the majority of the parcels within a specific county have a delta that's significant, meaning the market value is a lot higher than the assessed value, if the majority of those land parcels in that county have that, we label that as a green county, which is a county that we're saying target. If the market values, the majority of the parcels in that county have a market value that's a little bit higher than the assessed value, we're labeling that as a yellow county. And then third, if the assessed value has caught up to the market value or even sometimes higher than, if the majority of land parcels within that county have that, we label that as a red county. And we do that for every single county and every single zip code in the country. So every county and zip code will have either a green, yellow, or red label based on the majority of land parcels in those counties and zip codes having that delta of market to assessed value.
Yeah, and I'll jump on that a little bit from my experience using because this is huge to me, and you can give more details on it because obviously you're the ones that built it. But I love this because I used it for a green county, but once I got into the county, there was green, yellow, and I don't know if there was any red, but there was green and yellow. And so once I was in there, I only focused on green. So you can even take it down because sometimes people, like if people get a list from wherever, you're just getting the whole county, right? And then you have to physically remove zip codes. In your case, though, you're taking it down a notch where now not only is the county, you can go beyond the county level to focus on, like, for example, a Genus, he was looking for very specific properties across a state. So he was looking at it from like size, and then he went down to the zip code level on every one of them that would fit something, and only hit green ones and only hit out-of-state owners and things like that, because he was looking for a very specific purpose. So maybe a little bit more on that, on how your software helps to eliminate, guesswork, even on a more microscopic level than you would get like just looking at it from the broad county side.
Yeah, what's great is that our data, it's updated monthly also, right? So that's why having fresh data, the best data, that is king, right? Data is king. And we made it so easy. When you're just tracking the green zip codes, we have a lot of our users, they have trained their VAs, right? Overseas VAs, hey, just focus on the green zip codes. So, when the VAs are pulling the data for the land investor in the green areas, like, to trust it because it's in the software. And it's just eliminated like truly all the guesswork. Just focus on the green zip codes. And then, like you said, like you could go into a red county, but there's going to be green zip codes within that county. So you really need to click on every single county in the state you're working in.
Yeah. And I will say one thing about your data, because obviously data is always a question. One, I personally did values of $50,000 and up. And every deal that I got in there was worth right around that threshold and up. A couple of them lightly lower, but very close, 45,000 or something like that. So very, very close. And as far as the quality and how interested I could show, because I still have them here. Well, I don't know if it's going to work with the green. This is every return that I got of bad addresses out of 2,200 plus. So I don't even have 100 that came back. So, which is huge. 200 would be, I'm sorry, 100 would be, less than 5%, which is what the post office considers good. If they say if you have a list that's 95% or higher, they consider it good. There's definitely not even 100 here. There's probably 50 out of 2,200 that came back. So just to testify to the quality of what you're putting, you guys are putting out there. So that being said, so once an investor uses the software and they identify a strong county, they identify a good zip codes inside that, whatever it is, that however far down they're going to go, they start filtering things out, all of that. Let's talk about that. How does the platform first allow them to filter for what they want and then immediately pull and download the actual lead so that they can just go right into marketing?
Yeah, it's super streamlined and easy. So you have essentially, when you log in, a map showing those green and yellow, red counties, and you click on a county, it goes to the zip codes. And then once you've decided, hey, this is a county or zip code I want to work in, this is the county or zip code that I want to pull data from, you can put filters on. So you can go in and you can put a filter for owner type, meaning just individuals, just companies. We have an other option for estates and trusts. You can filter for owner mailing address, in county, out of state. You can filter for the county assessed value, like Jonathan was talking about. You only want properties $50,000 and up. You can filter for size. Some people just look for large acreage, 20 plus acres that they want to subdivide. You can remove properties that are currently on the MLS. You can also filter for taking properties that have sold in the last X amount of years and removing those from your list. You put all your filters in that you want, you hit apply, and then it's as simple as adding to the cart, right? You add a zip code, a green zip code or a green county to the cart. It's going to show you the number of records that after your filters have been applied that are in that county or zip code. You click a button to add to your cart and you check it out immediately from that cart. It automatically removes duplicate owners and it just gives you the owner. If an owner owns multiple properties, it just gives you their property that has the largest assessed value, that's worth the most. You check out, you buy the data, and then you get a nice streamlined CSV file with all of the data from that county or zip code using those filters that you applied.
And really quick, because this is huge to me compared to others, the cost for it, cost and minimums, because they're both big.
Yep.
For the data.
Yeah. So cost for the data is 4 cents a lead. So one of Aaron and I's biggest pain point when we were doing this business early on, we were using data tree, right? And in order to get your leads down to 3 to 4 cents, you had to spend like $700+ a month commitment to get that. We wanted to give you the lowest cost we possibly could, whether you download one lead or 10,000 leads. It's 4 cents a lead regardless of how many you pull. You can then also mail through our platform. Mailing prices, and it's the same. You would just click the button to mail. You would upload your letter that you'd want, and it would take that CSV file with letter, send it to us, and we would get it mailed out for you. Mailing prices are 62 cents per record. So you're talking 4 cents for the lead, 62 cents for the mailing. That includes stamp, that includes handwritten, color, one page, nice envelope, nice sheet of paper. There is a job minimum of $250, so it comes out to like 400 leads. You have to mail at least 400 leads. Even so, I don't know how you guys, your opinion, Jonathan, but we always recommend at least mailing 500, if not 750, plus per mailer. But there's a 400 minimum to send the mail.
Yep. And the minimum size list that you need to purchase?
You can purchase one lead. Yeah, the leads, there is no minimum. You can purchase one lead, you can purchase 10 leads. It's 4 cents per lead regardless.
So, and just to help with that a little bit with me, what I did, I talked to you about it was 2,200 plus leads because I did 50,000 and up, and I was looking for very specific types of properties. I'll get into the numbers a little bit after on that, but I just did it. It was a non-disclosed state, which was huge too. I was working in a non-disclosed state. You guys had, which obviously it was good. I showed the things already. 2,200 leads. It cost me like $90 for the data. It was very cheap, and it's very quality too. That's one of the things I really want to focus on, because there's always like cheap data out there. You guys have probably seen that, right? And it's like, oh, that sounds great, and then you use it, and you get your pile of return to senders, or you skip trace them, and that we don't own the prop, whatever it may be. However you're marketing to people, it's like you want quality behind it. Price is one thing, but you still want to make sure it's good, and that is the case with you. So 100%. Let's talk a little bit about the transition and what you've seen. We talked about what you did before, and we talked about what you're doing now. So before using this level of data versus after, how did your numbers change? Like, what did your mail to deal or offer to contract ratios look like then, and what do they look like now?
Yeah, it's a great question. So before using this software, we were sending the same amount of letters then as we are now. And just I'll use that as an example to show you the differences. But we send about 2,000 letters a week, so 8,000 a month, give or take. I would say the response rate before using this software, was anywhere from 0.5% to 0.8, maybe 1%. It depends, right? A lot of that depends on county, timing, things like that. It's hard to really judge. We've talked to multiple mailing houses, and that's around industry average, if you will. So on 2,000 letters, that's 10 to 16 leads, give or take, per 2,000 letters a week. Before this software, we were averaging about a 10%, 8 to 10% acceptance rate. So about one deal under contract for every 2,000 letters sent. After using this software and being able to leverage assessed value and have those conversations with sellers and finding those areas that specifically have areas where properties have a market value higher than assessed value, we've essentially doubled our acceptance rate. So in that same example, sending 2,000 letters a week, 0.5 to 0.8 to 1% response rate, give or take, 10 to 16 leads. We're getting 2 deals under contract now per 2,000 letters that we're sending out. Yeah, and a 20% acceptance rate, I've talked to a lot of land investors over the years. That's 2 deals under contract for every 10 offers that you're sending out.
Yeah, it's 1 in 1,000 letters, basically.
Correct.
And to be honest, I mean, those were the numbers that we always told people to shoot for 10 years ago. Those were the, not that wasn't reality in recent markets. And we did tell people the way to make it reality in recent markets before this was multiple follow-ups, right? Yeah. Getting multiple letters, getting on the phone, sending a text, whatever. But what you're talking about is just a letter. You're just sending a letter. That's it, right? And you're still getting that. And maybe my numbers were higher than normal. But like I said, 2,200, and we pulled out 12 contracts out of 2,200 letters. So, and again, that's all $50,000 and over. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but for anybody that's watching this, you're all in the Facebook group. I made a post. I showed the contracts. I showed the market value. I showed the purchase prices. So, I mean, all the details are there. I mean, this isn't just me making up stuff for the sake of making it up. Go in there. You'll see the post. You'll see the pictures. It's just scroll through. I mean, it was only, I don't know, a week or two ago that I posted about it because it was towards the end of the year, because this all happened too. That's the other thing I should mention. This all happened from, I think the first contract came in November 25th. So we're talking from November 25th through the beginning of end of December. I'm sorry. So 5 weeks or so that happened in. So again,
guys, just to be clear real quick, and this just for everybody listening, guys, I'm just chiming in. Don't expect those kind of results, okay? Don't shoot for the moon that high and then fall flat on your face. Again, I sent out 700 something and I got 2 deals under contract, okay? That is a lot, to be quite honest with you. So just be very realistic, and what Chris said is what you need to shoot for. 100,000. That's the goal. If you get more than that, great, but don't expect it, especially initially, because you're going to be let down. If it happens, great, but don't expect it. Let's be realistic.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I'm not even expecting that moving forward. I think I just happened to, the first county I selected with you guys, I just happened to hit a gold mine, and that happens. I mean, anybody that's been in this business for a while knows that they hit areas that it just produces, and other times it doesn't. But even 1 in 1,000, I mean, if you're talking 1 in 1,000, to mail 1,000, to pull the data and mail, you're at $600, $700. It's like to pull out one single deal. Even if it makes you 10,000, well, how hard of a trade-off is that, right? It's like, and that's for a smaller deal. So it's like to basically build on that point more. So, but one thing I will say is with that, when Jesus was saying, don't expect that, don't expect it regularly, but I would say from being in this business for as long as I have, I always have, every single year, I hit a gold mine as far as data. And I also hit a gold mine as far as like the property that somebody says is worth 20 grand and it's worth $100,000, and I buy it for 10 and I sell it for 100. It happens every single year, at least once. So do expect it. If you're consistent, expect to hit some stuff like that through your process. It's not going to be every deal. It ain't going to be every county. It ain't going to be every zip code. Don't expect that. But I try to put that out there because some people like cherry pick them, right? You see those people that teach this, and they're always like, this guy made $200,000 on his very first deal. And it's like, okay, but then they didn't make anything near that for the next 5 years. But you will have deals like that come in. And so it's just something to keep in mind, and that'll help you. So you talked about how it's translated into real deals. What is your average profit margin, by the way? Just so you're talking about 1 in 1,000. What's your average profit margin on that one that you're pulling out from that 1,000?
Yeah, we're similar to you. I mean, we'll do base hits, right? Where you're making $7,500, $10,000, $5,000 for a deal in profit margin. I would say our average is, $13,000 profit. But we're very similar. Once or twice a year, and you do that, 2 times a week, right? Now you're talking, 80,000 give or take on a month, right? But we're similar to you, Jonathan. Where once or twice a year you're going to get that grand slam, and you're going to get that property, and we get them all the time where you get it under contract for 40 and it sells for 140, and you just made 6 figures on one deal. And they are out there. They are still out there. Those are the ones that just catapult your business. But it's about consistency and continuing to do those $10,000 deals, those $7,500 deals, those $12,000 deals, because those are the ones that, honestly, like we joke about it, like it keeps the lights on, right? It lets you continue to mail and continue to keep the momentum and to continue to make an income out of this. And then you'll hit those monsters once or twice a year and off to the races.
And again, I don't want to like make this point too big because I don't want to get people's hopes up, but like specifically one of the deals that's in the ones I just did was one guy selling 6 properties, $84,000, and the market on those was sitting right around 3.
Yeah.
Am I going to sell them for 3? Probably not. Am I going to sell them in the low 2s? Probably. And now we're talking $150,000 payday on that deal. So, and obviously that's over 6 properties, not just one, but still, it just helps you to understand that. And that does come. I mean, it's just part of the business if you stick with it. Yeah, I've said that from the beginning. You just heard both of them say the exact same thing to do this. So we see all the questions coming up there, guys. I think Aaron's answering some as we're going, but we'll also ask them at the end just so everybody else can hear them as well. So keep the questions coming. Reminder on that, right? This is interactive, so feel free to ask questions. You'll be able to turn your cameras on at the end if you want to discuss it personally. If you want to, voice them, or if you want to just write them in the comments, you're welcome to do that too. So I just a little bit on it. What surprised you the most once you started looking? Because you already said you only worked in a few states, but now you're talking about analyzing market nationwide. So what surprised you the most when you started looking at it from the country aspect instead of just say where you had like thought you were going to be working or where you were working or whatever it was?
I think you just touched on it right there. It opened our eyes to a few other states that we wouldn't have even considered, right? I mean, we've done a handful of deals now in New Mexico. New Mexico wasn't really on our radar, but we looked at it in the software and man, hey, Chris, take a look at this. Take a look at these couple counties. And we ended up finding a buyer this week on a deal we're going to make 20 grand on, right? I mean, traditional wholesale deal. I mean, with this software, you can cover a lot more ground at a reasonable cost, right? Strategically, you're covering a lot of ground to get better ROI, and you can just cover more states and areas so much more quicker now.
Yeah. Yep. And I can testify to that because of areas I picked. And one of the things I will throw out there that I thought was really helpful was, and I've dealt with this before, but non-disclosed states do create a little bit harder steps sometimes to get information, get data, see sale prices, and and that's still the case when the sale price, you still got to work your way through that. But having this up front, getting the good data, knowing that it is connecting the market value and the assessed value, so you still know you're within reason. It just you said open up your eyes. It just opens up the world of possibilities for things as well. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about how this complements what we work through, because this is one of the things that I loved is how they work so well together. So at the Land Method, we focus heavily on identifying investable areas, and then understanding those market dynamics in that area, right? So we're focusing. You talked about growth. We want to see growing areas. We want to see data points, right? We want to make sure that there's actually stuff selling and stuff for sale in that area, right? Where it's not just like, well, because you could have a growing county, but a growing county could mean that they went from 1,000 people to 1,100 people, and nobody's buying there. So what we talk about and what we teach and everything like that still helps you to identify those parameters that are important. Making sure it's growing, making sure that there's actually movement and transactions and people want to be there and all of that. So that's the foundation. That's what I call it, the foundation. Where does your software plug in perfectly after that to basically take it so that you're taking what's already good and what's, you've identified as a good area and making sure it's like you're getting the best of the best at that point?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that's your foundation, and then AI Land Dealz would supplement that. So I think that, let's just take a county like, I'm from Arizona, right? I recently moved. Aaron lives in Arizona, Maricopa County, right? And I'm just using this as an example. If your foundation at the Land Method is showing that Maricopa County is a great county, it obviously it's a very populated county, it probably doesn't fit a lot of those parameters. But what's beautiful about this is you pull up in our software, Maricopa County may be it's probably a red county, right? High competition, assessed values have caught up to market value. But the beauty of it is you can take that county if it fits the land method's foundational parameters for what a good county is. And you can zoom into it and look at the zip codes within Maricopa County, for example. And I guarantee you there are green zip codes within that red county or yellow county. And so you can use the land method as your foundation of, okay, this is what I need to look for when I'm looking at counties. Texas, for example, has 230 plus, give or take, counties. You use the land method's foundation for finding, what a good county looks like. You take those counties and you match it with AI Land Dealz. If it's a green county, great, go for it. If it's a yellow or red county, dive into that county a little bit more and pull out green zip codes within there and mail or market to those places, to those green zip codes that the land method has set the foundation that we're just supplementing with.
Yeah, you're basically just accelerating the execution, understanding what good actually looks like. And I'll just to piggyback on that a little bit, because I think it's huge. When you get out west in this country, the counties get larger and there's few of them. And so that zip code parameter is huge. Maricopa County, what's 10 million people, 8 million people? I don't know. I mean, you got Phoenix dead in the center of it, but it also goes out to like nothing. It's just so big. Arizona only has like 15 counties.
Right.
And it's a huge state. Now, conversely, like you mentioned Texas, those are small, huge state, but still 200 and something. They're smaller. You go to like Georgia, it's a smaller state compared to the West Coast states. And there's like, I think it's the second most counties in the country after Texas. So they're really tiny there. So in a state like that, you may be focusing more on the county level because most of it, there's not going to be a ton of zip codes necessarily in, like for Atlanta, for example, I think it's in like 2 separate counties, right? And it's all suburbia. Whereas Maricopa, the dead center of it is, I'm sorry, it's all metro, not suburbia. For the Atlanta counties. Whereas Maricopa is going to have that metro area. It's going to have the suburbs. It's going to have the exurbs. It's going to have the large acreage because it's so expansive. So getting down to that lower level, especially like if you're working out west, out east, it may be more, okay, it's a green county. There may not be a whole lot of deviation in the zip codes. There'll be some, but maybe not as much. But over there, I did it in states like that, and it's just like across the board where it's like, okay, these are the primary zip codes, in a county. And for example, the one that I did, the county itself was yellow. I only focused on the green and pulled all those deals out of it.
Yep, spot on.
Right. I mean, you could find a deal in a yellow and a red, right? But like our strategy is let's just be more strategic with our money and just focus on the green first. Go after all the green, and then if you want to try a yellow, go for it. You could find a deal in a red, but just the likelihood that you are is a lot less than a green area.
Yeah, that goes back to the individual mindset instead of the overall mindset. At that point, you're talking with the person that doesn't care, they inherited it, they just want to get rid of it, all things that we've all heard, as opposed to the general mindset of, well, the county sent me this bill, it has to be worth this. And that, and that's where a lot of people fall into place. And so you're getting, basically, before we're always targeting the person that's, whatever those things are that were those trigger points. And now it's like, yes, those ones and the ones that basically just think, hey, it's worth this. And if I can get this, I'm going to take it. And that's been, it's been huge. I've seen it already. Obviously, you guys have as well. So with that being said, I mean, let's talk a little bit about this, going a little deeper with it, how you would explain the difference or the transition, however we want to word it, between learning how to choose the markets to then scaling with that data to really basically do what you guys did, turn it into an actual business as opposed to like, woohoo, I'm getting some deals done. That's really what you feel at first, right? But that's not the goal. So let's talk about that a little bit.
I mean, with our software, you can put the right systems in place, right? Chris and I, our first year in the business, I mean, we were understanding it, getting it together, but at the end of the first year is when we had our systems in place. And if we had this software back when we first started, it would have cut the learning curve just in half, right? Like our success would have been a lot sooner. I want to touch a little bit on like sell-through rates, right? We added those into our software just so you have an idea, our property's moving. Um, I'm going to go against the grain a little bit. And, there's other companies that have heat maps, right? Red is hot. This means they're selling over and over. I mean, in our experience, like our biggest deals were in areas that were a little more rural, right? Not a lot of sales, not in Lehigh Acres in Florida, right? Where there's a ton of properties. Yeah. But those people probably know what their property's worth, right? I want those areas where, larger acreage, right? The higher dollar stuff where people are more accustomed to not know what their property's worth. So, I mean, couple that with our software, and I think that's been the reason for our success.
And I will say, I mean, one thing on the sell-through rates is not to get too hung up on you want to see a decent number. And that's one of the things that we talk about. But you don't want to get too hung up on it. It's like, because you sit there and you show a year sell-through rate and it's at like 70% or something, and be like, oh, I'm never going to move this. No, because you don't have to. Those people are trying to all get market value. If you're getting a property that's worth, it kind of goes back to what I said, those 6 properties, 80 grand, and they're worth in the threes. If I deduct $100,000, I'm going to be setting it, right? I'm going to be getting the first ones. I'm going to be in that sell-through rate very quickly. So there's things that you can still do to make sure. I mean, you obviously don't want to see nothing moving. That's huge, right? But at the same time, don't get hung up and think like, oh, it has to be everything that's out there has to sell, in the next year, or else I'm in trouble. No, because you can price yours to move it. That's a huge thing that you want to be focusing on. So, and that is big. I mean, look at that one there. That goes back to what we were talking about looking what's for sale, looking at stuff that has sold, making sure that there's movement, that there's stuff that people are actually listing there. Because last thing you want to do is go to a county that has 5 listings, nobody's buying, or 5 sales, nobody's, so. But at the same time, you do want to see traction and all that, and that's huge. So something that, and again, if you guys book a demo with them, they'll go through all that, with you. So what would you say? Let's talk about like real world use results, things like that. What would you say the before and the after look like for a land investor who switches from manual research, doing the things we mentioned, pulling the list, all of that, to using your platform?
I mean, the number one thing I think is time savings, right? I mean, how valuable is your time? I mean, time is money, right? It truly is. And when you don't have to do the work by hand and it's done there for you by software, updated every month, I mean, it's just a no-brainer. And that's why Chris and I wanted to create something that we would stand behind. And that's why, in the early development, we thought it was going to take 4 months to develop. The software took a year. There's just so much that goes into software that we had no idea. And I mean, time savings are going to equate into dollars in your pocket.
Yep. Yeah, I agree 100%. And I've already seen it. So that being said, and I know the answer, it's kind of a loaded question, but you can maybe touch on all of them. Specific investor profiles. The new person, the scaling person, the high volume person that's been doing this for years. Who's the benefit for? It's obviously all of them, but how does it benefit each group, I guess, would be the best way of saying it.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, it benefits everyone. If I had to pinpoint one of those the most, I would say the investor that's been doing it 6 months to a year and a half, right? They've done a handful of deals and they just maybe feel like they haven't got the traction that they want. I mean, this is just primed for you, the new person, they're just getting their feet wet. So, I mean, having this tool right from the get-go would be huge, but you got to get your bearings and know how to do the business. I mean, that's why they link up with you and the land method, right? Get to know how to do the land game, with Jonathan, and then, start using the software. And like you said, I mean, we've got users that have been flipping land for 10 plus years, right? And they've been with us since the start. So it's really built for everyone.
Yeah. And again, Me and Genius are both perfect examples of that. We show our success. Everybody knows we're doing this, and we jumped in. And then we have other people that are newer, and we sent them over too to help them to get the best thing as well. So it really doesn't matter. I mean, I'd say the biggest difference is obviously there is a cost to it. And so if the person is in the penny pinching mode, right, they're trying to figure things out, then we always tell people, but get out of that very quickly, because you got to spend money to make money. It's not like expensive. It isn't something that's thousands of dollars. It's like, so get to that, get over that hump as quickly as possible. A single deal or putting money aside or whatever it may be to help you get to the next level. So let's talk just for a few minutes, and then we'll open it up here about some advice, resources, and things. So one I'd love to talk about for new land investors or stuck land investors, because they lived through the different market cycles you guys got involved in during like the COVID years, where it was like selling was like that, right? You just stuck a property out there and it was gone. Because a lot of people are still kind of focusing or teaching that, or they're just drying up or whatever it is. What advice would you give them now, January 2026, the world we're living in, the market we're living in, to adapt and move forward confidently and still doing this business or starting in this business?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the advice I would give, Jonathan has already said that he is obviously doing deals and being successful in this business. Aaron and I are doing deals consistently and being successful in this business. There are deals out there and the business works. My advice would be, you have to market, and you have to market consistently. And with that, you have to follow up. I think those are probably our two biggest things, is consistency and follow up. Outside of the software that we've talked about, and we'll answer questions at the end that we're looking forward to answering, but you have to market. So many people in this business right now will send out a mailer. And it doesn't even have to be mail. If you want to text because it's inexpensive, if you want to cold call because it's even less expensive, if you want to do blind offers or neutral, or whatever it is that suits you and your business, do it consistently. I see way too many people, and Jonathan can probably attest to this, where you send one mailer out, you wait for that one deal to come in, and you wait for that one deal to get sold. And now you've had a 3-month sales cycle, 2-month sales cycle, and you haven't sent any more marketing out. And so now that deal has sold, you've got a little cash in the bank, and now you're going to send another mailer out or another marketing attempt out. You got to be consistent. You got to market weekly or every other week at least, to consistently have deals in your pipeline that you're consistently selling, and then it just snowballs. And the second thing, other than consistency, is follow up. If you have leads that are calling, that opened your letter, that called you specifically and want to sell their property, for whatever reason, follow up with them. That's a lead that you've already paid for on the back end. Follow up 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times until you know for sure it's either a deal you're going to get under contract, or they want market value and it's somebody that you probably won't end up working with. So consistency and follow up. Don't be afraid. People are doing deals all the time, like 3 of us have talked about. Business is there to be had. Go out and get it.
It's funny because I've been teaching now for 10 years in land, and I have said since day one, and even before I was teaching, like just on like stages and stuff, I would say consistency, consistent. I was like, what's the biggest lesson in this business? Consistency, consistent. Second biggest lesson, you said follow up. I called it volume, but basically the same thing, because you can do it 2 different ways. You can either up the amount you do, reaching more people, or we've shifted that now into more touches to that same person. You can do it a couple different ways, but spot on to the exact same stuff that we've been teaching for years. You guys have been in it for a few years, and you've already seen the results. And it's funny because you've accomplished more in 4 years than some people have accomplished in 10 in this business, because they're dabbling, they're not consistent, they're not doing things the right way. It just shows you that you can have rapid success, and you can become experts, and you can become ones that are doing this day in and day, but you've got to put in the effort, and you got to follow through with all these things. And you guys are living proof of that, within a fairly short amount of time. So a couple, like what I call bonus questions that just kind of goes along with this. You've both built and exited these demanding careers. You built a highly profitable business in all of this. One of the things I post all the time is like reviews and stuff on them is business books. I listen to numerous ones a year. Many others do, or they read them or whatever. Doesn't really matter. So anything that you are currently reading or that you have on your that you have read that is like on your must read list that you would, and you could both answer this one, if there's something that applies.
I'm just starting a popular book. I mean, I'm already loving it. Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. I mean, we can all get better at negotiation, right? I mean, if you think you're at the top of your game, I mean, you might be better than you were yesterday, but you can still get better. So, I mean, it's just dealing with people's emotions, right? And just working with them.
Yeah, that's a great book. He was he was a negotiator for
Hostage negotiator. Yeah.
What was it for? What was it? What agency? I forgot, but CIA or FBI or something, right?
Yeah,
Secret Service.
right.
I don't remember which one, but yeah, that's a great book. Chris, anything to add? Or
Yeah, I would say the book that I've recently started, obviously Aaron and I have started this new venture in software, and right now it's just the two of us, but we're on the verge of building out a team. I've started reading for that reason. I've started reading a book called Leaders Eat Last. We're just trying to figure out how to lead this business into the future and start leading a team and do it the right way and lead by example. So I just started that not too long ago myself.
Yeah, I've read them both. I would say both phenomenal books. Highly recommend them both. And then one other question on this, not is like daily habits, not necessarily business. It can be business, but is there a daily habit that you think is essential for just general success in life? And obviously business is included in life. So
for me, I think it's doing hard things, right? Especially, I'm a big morning routine guy. I know some of the gurus, they talk about it, but I mean, I am a big believer. So I like getting, some sort of workout in, and everybody starts their journey different, right? Maybe that's just a walk for you around the subdivision, but you're getting out, you're getting your body moving. And then I end it with a cold plunge, 43 degrees for about 3.5 minutes. And there's something psychological about it. It's already, it's comfortable by now, but right before I get into that 43 degrees, I mean, like, I'm thinking, what am I doing with my life? And it's psychological and just overcoming that. And then after I'm done in 3 minutes, I'm refreshed and I'm ready to start my day.
Awesome. Chris?
Yeah, I would say I'm a man of faith, so I start every morning out in the Word, in the Bible, and with prayer. And I think just starting your day out with something that just puts your mindset at the right place, right? And gives you the mindset to start your day, to think positively, and you start changing your mindset, especially first thing in the morning. The rest of your day just snowballs into that and becomes much more pleasurable of a day.
Yeah, I agree 100% on that as well. So I just love hearing it from other people too, because it's like people hear success stories. And one of the things, Napoleon Hill, success leaves clues. That's one of the things he always used to say. So it's like, why reinvent the wheel? It's like, and his whole premise was like masterminds, but this is like a mini mastermind. I mean, it's us talking and other people can gain from that. So definitely something that, I love asking and just seeing what people say and think. So one final question before we open it up, because we've talked about it, but we haven't really discussed how to do it. Anyone that's watching or listening, they want to see this in action. What's the best way? And I guess we can put the link in, Genus can do it, or one of you, the best way to book a demo with you. And not only the best way to do it, but what should they come prepared with for that call? Like what should be their mindset, or what else should they do in advance, if anything? Just walk us through how to have the demo, and then like what their attitude and thought should be going into it.
Yeah, I think definitely the book a demo with us is the best way. We will show you the software. We will go through it. We will help you pick states. If you want, go to www.ailanddealz.com, and that deals with a Z, ailanddealz.com. And once you're there, you can check out our website, click on the link to book a demo. It'll open up to our Calendly and book a time that works for you. I would say just come with an open mind and come with questions, right? Come with, how can we help you in your land business? Come with the ability to kind of give us a little background of who you are, how long you've been in the business, maybe what some of your struggles are and what you need some assistance with. And we can figure out how we can, come alongside you as the land method has as well, and just help you in that journey to be successful in this business because it does work. But I would say definitely start by booking a demo with us at ailanddealz.com. Deals with a Z.
Yep, great. And specifically, guys, when you do that, make sure you mention you saw this or listened to this or came from us, because there is a discount for the first month with this. If you do that, it's a pretty hefty discount. So, make sure you mention that in that conversation that, the land method or myself, my name, or they'll know. So just, Jonathan mentioned it, Genus mentioned it, the land method, thought on crushing land, whatever. They're going to know all those terms, but just make sure you do that. Save yourself a little bit of money at the beginning and help you get into it that much faster. So, all right, what I'm going to do here is I am going to change the allow people to. Now I've got to figure out where to do it because, of course, Zoom's always changing where things. Here we go. So you can unmute yourself. You can start your videos if you want to ask questions. You're able to do that now. I just changed that. What I'll do is I'll start going through some of the chat discussion here that was come up. Some of these have already been answered, but in case you're not monitoring the chat or you're listening, we'll still ask them. You guys can give short answers for the ones you did. Question was, do you offer skip tracing? Aaron answered it, but go ahead, you can answer it again.
Not at the moment, but it's something that we're going to look into hopefully early, maybe second quarter. Maybe we can get something going.
Okay. How many states can we look around to see what areas are green before picking where we want to, he says buy, but I think he means market, where you want to market?
So we have a couple packages, 3, 5, or 8 states, and we're willing to work with people. If there is a state they don't like, we'll swap it out, right? I mean, we want you guys to win, right? So we're not going to be sticklers like that. In the demo process, we will walk you through and kind of steer you in the right direction of states that we kind of look good in the software and we recommend, and we'll show them to you on the software so you know what you're going to be purchasing.
So just to clarify that a little bit, when he's talking about states that they want to look around before where they pick, it's actually all 50. They can look at all 50 with you and then decide which ones they want to have as theirs. So just so Jason asked that. Exactly. So just so everybody, we just want to make sure you understand that. You don't have to go and oh, I've got to have my 3 or 5 states now. They're going to walk you through that, and then you identify those in that conversation.
Exactly.
Do you offer the ability to send up follow-up letters as well if somebody wants to send more than one letter?
So you can send the short answer is no, because our mailing house does have a minimum, and so with follow-up letters, those are going to be kind of onesie twosie.
I'm sorry, I don't think he means offers. I think he means if you're doing a second marketing. You hit your 2, because in my case, I had 2,200 leads. The ones that didn't respond, now I want to send another marketing piece to them.
Yes, 100%. You can resend them, and we can do that as well. Yep. Great question.
Okay.
I got a quick question that nobody asked, but I'm sure somebody's thinking. If we use your marketing, sent the letters out through you guys, can we use our own letter?
100%. We encourage it. We have a standard template that you can use, but we always tell people, throw a picture of you and your family, you and your dog, whatever, throw a logo, make it as personal as possible.
It's because our letters are just more, you know how some speakers, their letters are all the exact same. Ours are more you have to customize it for yourself, the paragraph or two. So everyone's letter is slightly different. No one's is the exact same. And we did that purposely, right? Because when I used to market, I would send out mail and somebody would be like, I got 10 of these exact same letters, right? Yep. And it's okay, you're not really standing out doing it that way. So when we came on and started the land method, we kind of changed the way we do the letters to make you have to kind of customize it and tailor it toward yourself and your business versus it looking like it's my business.
100%. And it's a full color letter with pictures, same price regardless. So yes, fully, yep, agree 100%, Genus.
And do you guys do the double window, or is it the physical stamp?
We do a physical stamp.
Okay.
Physical stamp. Our envelopes are non-windowed. If you prefer a window, we could get that.
No, we don't teach window. We don't teach. We teach non-window with the physical stamp because it's looks like junk mail when you got windows.
There's a return. There's an example. It's like so.
And it'll come with handwritten font on the envelope. Yeah, unless you want something otherwise, yeah, you can customize.
Oh.
And also, if you already have your data, right? If you already have 10,000 leads somewhere else, you can just send us that list with your letter and we'll mail it for you for 62 cents. So you don't have to purchase our data, right? That's not mandatory. Just sort it by zip code. I would sort your list by zip code and just sort out the green zip codes from our software and just target those.
Yeah, I mean, just to talk, and you don't have to do this, but for example, I had a list from Florida, and Florida is very easy to get lists. Like it just click buttons in a lot of counties. But I still use what you guys provided to get it down better because I had this huge list. And Florida, a lot of times, it's like 40,000 records because there's just so many empty lots. So it's like getting that down. You could use now if I was going to go do it again for the price point, it's not worth the effort of going through the work. But if you already had one, in that case, it's like, well, I have this huge list. Now I can go in and say, okay, I'm just taking out all these zip codes and all of that. I mean, for 4 cents each, when you're getting down to that finite of a, it's like just pay for them there. It's easy. It's way easier on your time and it's cheap, right? But if you already had something, why not still make it a better list? And you could hire somebody on Fiverr or Upwork for, $30. Say, take this and remove these if you don't want to do it yourself, and you're still getting a better situation at that point. So yeah, definitely don't just scrap things because of that. I think that's huge because a lot of places are kind of opposite of what you guys do, where they put you in step 1 and the only way to get to step 5 is to go through them for their, and obviously that's the easiest and I do recommend that, but at the same time it's like, man, I'm working this list over here and I'm not going great, but I see green. Fix that list then. Don't scrap it. It's like, use that. So you talked about this early on, but we'll bring it up again in case people came on late. How often is it updated?
Once a month.
So fresh data. I mean, you can't really ask for better than that. Honestly, in this business, I mean, counties don't even update monthly in some cases. So is there a monthly fee or just 4 cents per record? I'll talk on that a little bit just for you guys, because the monthly fee varies based on which package you pick. There is a monthly fee, but it varies based on so the best thing again is to do the demo and let them walk you through that. And again, you get a discount on that for the first month through what we have arranged with them. And I will say for most people, and you guys can chime in on this a little bit, unless you're a huge player, you probably don't need more than the 3 states because you're picking good ones. Right. So
100%.
It's like save your time. Now, if you're going to go out and you're going to do, I know you've got one user, we know him well because he told me you told me he used it. And he said, I mean, I think he's doing like 30,000 a month or something. He's probably in multiple because of that. And it's just a huge player out there. But for the average person, even the big players, 3 states is a lot of land. That's a lot of land. So, you're probably pretty good in that range already.
Without a doubt. I mean, like Chris touched on, Texas has 254 counties. I mean, you could just stay in Texas, right? Like that could keep you busy for a long time, for a year, Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually only actively marketing right now in 1 state. I do have some others that I have worked recently, but in the last year, 2. So that's me. I mean, at the volumes we're at, so and I think you kind of said the same thing, right? You're basically working 2 states? Is that what it was? I don't remember.
Yeah, we're probably 60% in 1 state, and then we dabble in 2 other states. So 3 states total. Yep.
Yeah, and Genus the same way. I mean, so you don't. some people get way too complicated with it. It's like, you don't need to do that. Even to be a big player, you don't need to do that. You talked about this too, but in case anybody missed it, it said, so you're only looking at the difference between the assessed value and the market value. Do you take anything else into consideration, like days on the market, sale through rate, population density, anything like that? So if you talked about it already, but go ahead and chime in a little bit in case anybody missed it.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And so, yeah, so the green, yellow, red color coding you see on the map is going to be based off of assessed to market value margins. However, we do on each county, the county card, it'll show you if it's green, yellow, or red. It'll tell you the number of land parcels. And then if you use filters, it'll drop that down, obviously. And in addition to it, it'll show you the 6 and 12 month sell-through rate as well. The number of sold properties divided by the number of properties on market during that time, 6 and 12 months. So it will show you sell-through rates. And we put that in there just because we know it's a hot topic right now in the land community. It just gives you an additional point of reference when maybe you're debating between two green counties or zip codes. You can look at the sell-through rate and maybe choose based on that. It does not affect the color coding. It's just an additional reference point for you as the user. Population density, it doesn't show you that, but that's, what is it? Populationreview.com. You can go quickly and find populations and things like that there. So.
Yeah, and that's one of the things where I'll talk about just really quickly where what we teach benefits this for the foundation, because you guys, because it doesn't look at the population, it may show a green zip code or a green, but nothing's really happening there. Like it may be because it's like, there was 1 or 2 sales because it was so small. That's where the area identification to begin with will help you say, hey, I don't want to market to a county. There's this counties like where I live in Utah here. There's 3 million people in Utah and 2 million of them live in the Salt Lake City corridor. You start getting outside of that, there's some populations like, beside tribal land, they've got like 1,000 people in them.
Right.
It's like, we're going to tell you right from the get-go to not even go. It could be green, but nobody's buying there. It's like, we're very limited. So find the numbers that actually match and understand, well, okay, these counties, and I say this, every state has good areas and bad areas. So there's going to be areas that work. There's going to be ones that don't. You find those based on the data that the information we provide. And then you then go and say, okay, now I want to get the best of the best in these areas. This is where their software comes in and helps you to really get that even more finite. And again, I'm living proof of that, right? With the way that I did it and getting these, these deals that we pulled off here. So, and one question asked about, because I think there might be a little confusion on his end. How do you determine market value from assessed value? There's no correlation with them. You're not determining the market value from the assessed value. You're doing it just talk about it a little bit, in relationship to each other.
Yep, we have every parcel of land in the US with those county assessed values. And for market values, we're looking at Zillow, Redfin, MLS data to find market values for each individual property, coupled with some AI. So we have algorithms built into there based off of, I'm not going to go into like the length of the logic, but essentially, a 1 mile radius around that parcel, number of, sold prices. If it's over 2 acres, we're looking at price per acre, sold prices. If there are no solds, like in some of these rural areas, we'll go to for sale prices and then we'll take a discount off of for sale. So we're using MLS data, Redfin and Zillow data and then coupling it with our AI logic to get market values independently of assessed value. Assessed value is the number that's a tangible number from the county. The market values are coming independent of that. And then we're looking at the ratios between the two.
Yep. And someone asked, we did talk about this a little bit, but maybe break it down a little bit. What's available? It says, did you say you could filter the data in the list prior to sending it? You can, but why don't you just give a real quick rundown of what they can filter, I guess.
Yep, you can filter by owner type, owner mailing address, assessed value, property size, last purchase price or the last purchase date of the property. So if John Smith bought 6 months ago, you obviously probably don't want to mail to them because he's not going to sell it to you at a discount from what he bought it at 6 months ago. You can filter for removing properties that are currently on the MLS. So those are going to be your main ones that you can filter your list down from.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff it's built right in there. I mean, regardless of where you are, I would put a minimum price point. You don't want $1,000 pieces of land. I don't. I always tell people you don't want to. 5,000 is where I always tell people to start at the minimum, the $5,000 piece of property. So you can at least put that in at 5,000. Out of county owners is huge. I wouldn't do out of state. Depending on, it depends on the state. I mean, if you're doing Delaware, sure, do out of state. If you're doing Rhode Island, do out of state. If you're doing Arizona, Texas, forget it. I mean, you're in like a whole different world crossing the state. So just get out of the county. And so that's, this is huge. And like I said, I mean, just for me, my personal use, what I did with it was, and they'll show you this in the demo, but what I did was I went in, I picked, I didn't care who owned it. And I also didn't necessarily care about the time frame, because there is sometimes where it's a transfer because of like probate or somebody puts it in a trust or whatever it may be. So I leave that alone. They're just not going to call. I don't mind spending a little bit more in marketing. If you don't want to do that, then take them out. There's nothing wrong with that. But what I would say there is, I mean, I did out of county, $50,000 and up. I also did, because I was looking more for subdividing, so I also set a minimum size. I don't usually focus on size, because if the value's there, I don't care. But I wanted to subdivide properties. So I was looking at a certain acreage and up, and you can do all of that inside of there. It's just clicking buttons too. It's not difficult. And then everything that follows in the county after that, in the zip code shows you that. And then I just went through with every green zip code, saw how many they were, just add to cart, add to cart, add to cart, and just did all the green ones. 2,200 later, I had my list, and out it went. And it's literally that simple. Just so you guys, that are listening, understand that. And again, they'll help you through that.
Yep.
Let's see here. Katrina asked, yes, Katrina, that's correct. We just talked about that, but in case it came after, using our thing to narrow down the area and making sure it fits, again, the foundation, and then using them to get the best possible data inside of those areas. And then somebody just asked, let's see here. I think you talked about this, but maybe not the way they're asking. He says, are you using a percentage above assessed value to determine red, yellow, and green, or is it price dependent?
Do you use a percentage above market? So our algorithm is going to be, if the market value, it's going to be like a 1.5 times, right? If the majority
50%.
of the land parcels in that county or zip code are 1.5 times or higher, give or take, it's going to be green. If it's between, little over 1 to 1.5, it's yellow, and if it's equal or lower, then it's going to be red, give or take. Yeah, that's
so. Just so to clarify, just numbers. If it's a $10,000 piece of property, the market value is going to be $15,000. If it's a $50,000 piece of property, the market value is going to be $75,000.
Right.
$100,000 piece of property, the market value is going to be $150,000. So just so you see, so 50% higher than whatever the county is saying on average. And again, I will say, for my use in doing this, I've seen it. It's like I said, I did $50,000 and up, and I think the lowest value that I got was like 45, which is very close. That's negligible. I mean, no data is going to be 100% perfect. I mean, so to be that close, I think I even told Aaron, I think we were talking about it early on. I said, when I started and I was hitting at 55, I was thinking I'd be hitting like 35 and up, hitting 50. Like I thought, I probably gained properties like 35 and up, and it was really 45 and up. So it's been very, very solid data all across the board. So that is it for questions in the chat. We'll give you guys like a couple seconds here to, if you have anybody else has any questions, if you want to come on the screen and unmute yourself or ask a question, you're welcome to. We'll give it a couple of seconds, and if not, somebody's coming on. So apparently you have a question.
I have a question. So, Jonathan, you touched on that. You just said you pulled a list of like 2K. Are you still testing these lists, pulling out of the green areas just to make sure, like, go like 500 or 1,000 out of that zip code? Because, depending on what you're focusing on to get the results, or no, you're just going all in?
I personally don't. I'm not a big test person, because I feel like the numbers that people say to test aren't big enough. And maybe you guys can talk on that a little bit. I mean, I know a lot of people say like send 500. Well, they already told you 1 in 1,000 to get a deal. So what's a test of 500 going to do? So you guys have anything to add into that? I mean, how do you do it, or what your thoughts are?
Yeah, I would say before the software, we did test, because we didn't want to spend, $3,000 on a county that we were just throwing spaghetti against the wall. With the software, we don't test. I mean, it's honestly, the test has been done, right? So we are now at the point where we're just looking at green, even yellow counties and zip codes and marketing to those. So we don't really test anymore. And we're similar to Jonathan, like we pull 2,000 a week and we mail them. I'm not really looking to. We know the states that we like, and we just stick in the green and yellow counties, zip codes within those states, and fire away.
I would say the exception you might use there is if you're in a state with like so many in a county, make sure it's hitting. Like for example, they talked about Lehigh Acres, that's in Florida. Lee County, I think. But Florida is notoriously known for like tons of vacant land. I mean, thousands of properties in each county, tens of thousands. You might not go pull a list of 30,000 if you're hitting everything. It just may not make sense. In that case, you might go for like the best of the best or a very certain window. That way you can go back and say, well, I filtered the 10,000 to 30,000 leads and I've got my few thousand there. Let's see how that works. And if those, then you can go back and hit before you go buy $30,000 worth of data, 30,000 leads worth of data, I mean. Right. But in general, like the way I did it, because of my filtering, it came down only 2,200. What am I going to do? A test of half of that? It wasn't really worth it. So a lot of it just depends on, from my perspective, of like what kind of list you're getting, how large it is. If you're getting into, I would say probably over 5,000, then yeah, maybe filter it down a little further to get a smaller base to just make sure before you go out and, mail 10, 20, 30,000 pieces.
And that's a great point. To that point, just so you know, Marcel, if you had a county like that you put your filters on, that you had, let's just say they had 10,000 records after your filters within that county, that green county that you're looking at, there is a filter for, I just want to pull records 0 to 1,000 or 0 to 1,500 or 0 to 2,000. So you could theoretically test that way. To Jonathan's point, you're not buying 10,000 leads times 4 cents. You can just buy like the first 1,000 and test it that way. And then if you do well there, you can come back in, and it's all numerical. So if you did that and you liked the county, it was a good county, successful for you, you can come back and you can say, okay, now I'm going to buy 1,000 to 1 to 2,000 or to 3,000 or what have you. You can do that within the software.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
And it's interesting because I'll just give you a real life example. We had one of our coaching calls just this week. We had somebody that was looking at an area and they only wanted to go up to properties. I think it was $30,000 or $35,000 in value. And so that's what they were focusing on. So we, just looking at Zillow in that case, we set the top parameter for sales and for solds that had that there. Well, all the dots across the county, all like basically truncated into one spot. And they were all like, and so if you're looking at maybe like that type of work, that's where putting those filters in come into play, right? Because now you're like, instead of attacking the entire county and being like, man, I'm banging my head against the wall, just getting a full list. It's like now you're getting a very filtered list to fit exactly what you want. It's much narrower. It's much smaller. Now you're not spending as much in marketing dollars and you're getting some leads from that. And then from there, you can decide, hey, I want to keep expanding. This county still has other green areas, but they're more expensive. Well, however you want to do it. Or you could just focus on, maybe there's so many in that county, you just say, I'm just going to, hey, this zip code's great. This one zip code's great. It's green and it's got 3,000 records on its own. So just get that one zip code to start and then go back and add the other ones later. So there's different ways of playing with that.
And then just one piggyback question on that. So Chris and Aaron, for you guys, I know John, you and Genus, you guys do a bunch of SMS calling and mail and letters. Chris and Aaron, for your business, do you guys just mail or do you also do calling and text messaging and follow-ups?
Yeah, we currently are just mailing neutral letters. So that 100% neutral letters. We last year, for about a year, we did implement texting as well. I think it's great, especially for some people. For us, neutral letters just work better because we talk to every single seller and build that relationship. So that's what we do for our business. But we've never tried cold calling, probably something we'll try in the future. But we did do texting for a little bit and it was successful.
And I'll touch on that a little bit from our perspective because we do that stuff, but it's a follow-up for us. We still mail. So those 2,200 I just mentioned and those 12 contracts, that was all mail. That's zero follow-up yet. Because it only happened last month because there's a delay. So none of the other people that haven't responded have been touched yet. So I'll pull more deals out of that by doing our follow-up stuff. But if you're looking at it for like best, like just getting like letters give you the best quality lead. No question about that. I know people say cold calling, that's bogus. I can tell you straight up because the line I always use is if you see a number you don't recognize, how often do you answer the phone? It's just a bunch of voicemails, and then you got to get them to call back. So the letter is still the best quality lead. It's more expensive marketing, but it's the best quality lead. But again, at the price point that they're mentioning, I just gave you the numbers. We're under $1,000 to do all of this, and we pulled a few $100,000 in property out of it. Now, like I said, that's not normal. But maybe let's just go back to if it was only 2 deals, because 2,000 pieces. If it was only 2 deals, and I only did $50,000 and up. So let's just say I was buying them at 50% of value. Even if I spent $1,000 and got 2 deals at 50% of value, and they're both 50 grand properties, that's $50,000 in profit, right? Mm-hmm. Where is that a bad day? Ever, right? to 50x your marketing capital. So they're just trying to give you some real world scenarios there. And they talked about the average of 13,000. Even if that's the case, and you spent $1,000 to make $26,000 to pull 2. How's that bad, right? It's like none of that stuff is a bad situation to be in. And again, that's all with just one touch, like they're talking about, even in my case, because I haven't done any follow-up yet.
Yeah. Awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah.
And then the last question, I guess, was Kendra here. Aaron, Chris, you answered it, but we'll let you vocalize it again for those who can't see the chat or watching it after on YouTube or listening to it on the podcast and wherever it may be. Can you save the lists?
Yeah. So if you have a list that you've got, you put your filters in, you can put a favorite on them and it'll put it into your favorites tab. You can then come back at a later date. You can purchase that data set from that favorite. Also, if you've purchased data from us, it will populate on your dashboard. It'll show you exactly what you bought, the county, the zip codes, the filters you used, how many leads it was, how much you spent, so that if, 2 months from now, when you don't remember what you mailed in November of last year, it'll keep record of all of that.
In one question I'll ask, because it didn't come up and this made me think of it, because I know you do it. They're going to get an immediate list, like within minutes. But they're better off waiting a day, right? Why are they better off waiting a day?
Yeah, so that was another one of the pain points, right? Is scrubbing lists. So we wanted to take that away from our users. And we have a team member, multiple team members that scrub lists for you. And it usually same day or at the very latest the next day, you'll get a completed scrubbed CSV file sent to you. So we're just trying to, this software was made by land investors for land investors. So we know the pain points, right? And we're trying to remove them and just streamline the business.
Yeah. And again, for those that missed it, because I showed it early on, but not everybody was here, 2,200 letters from them. These are my returns. We're not even talking about 100 here out of 2,200. That's low. It's under 5%. And again, what I said early on, for those that missed it, the post office considers a 95% deliverability thing like as their threshold of good. That's good data. That's good. That's what the United States Post Office has said. That's what they've said is like the standard. So the fact that this is all I got back out of 2,200, it just shows you it's that what they're putting through, what they're putting out there for you guys, what they've built works. It's good quality information. So I think that's it. Doesn't look like anybody else has any more questions that popped up. If you guys do, the best thing to do is book the call. I think the link's been in there a few times. Book a call with them, have a demo, no pressure, right? It's not, they're going to walk you through it and they're going to show you what it does. And if it works, then it fits for you, then use it. And if you don't, and there's no commitment either. That's a huge part, right? I mean, if they use it for 3 months and say, it's not what I'm thinking, or it's not really necessary, just quit, right? At that point, I don't think you will, if you're serious about this business, but it is something that you can, that you have that ability to do. So again, guys, I've seen a huge difference. Genus has already talked about it. They've talked about it. If you want to level up, this is something that's really happening right now in today's world. So, any parting words, guys, before we cut loose?
I would just say thank you, Jonathan and Genus, for having us on, man. Truly a pleasure. We love stuff like this. We love connecting and seeing other land investors. We very much appreciate what you guys are doing and respect that, and have a great amount of respect for you both. So thanks for having us on, and nice to meet everyone. Look forward to meeting you in the demo.
Yeah,
Thanks, guys.
We're very fortunate to have crossed paths with Jonathan, Genus, and I mean, this, like Jonathan said, this is like a mini mastermind, right? For free. I mean, the amount of value you can gain from hopping on these calls, I mean, it's just invaluable. So I just wanted to thank everyone for participating and the hosts. Thanks, guys.
All right. Well, thank you guys both for joining us. And again, I'll just finish with, at minimum, if you're serious about this business, have the call with them. It's not long. Let them walk you through it. It's not just a telephone call, it's screen sharing. Right? I mean, they're going to show you stuff, so you'll be able to actually see the internal, workings of this of what that does, and really see how to elevate your land business. So thank you, everybody, for being here today. Aaron, Chris, thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you for all that you've done and for making this available for everybody. And we'll catch everybody next time on another episode of Crushing Land. So have a great afternoon and a great week.